Silence. All stand and remain standing until the conclusion of the reading of the proclamation. Ladies and gentlemen, the proclamation. All persons having any business before this honourable court now draw nigh. Give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Queen.
Admission of lawyers. Lorraine Sayed Abu Rizk.
May it please the court, I move that Lorraine Sayed Abu Rizk be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Lorraine Sayed Abu Rizk be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Isabel Jane Alvarez.
May it please the court, I move that Isabel Jane Alvarez be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Isabel Jane Alvarez be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Fatima Bashir.
May it please the court, I move that Fatima Bashir be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Fatima Bashir be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Bridget Eliza Clareborough.
May it please the court, I move that Bridget Eliza Clareborough be admitted as a solicitor of this honourable court.
Let Bridget Eliza Clareborough be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Stephanie Stavrula Costi.
May it please the court, I move that Stephanie Stavrula Costi be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable
Let
court.
Stephanie Stavrula Costi be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Sebastian Somerset Davies Mills.
May it please the court, I move that Sebastian Somerset Davies Mills be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Sebastian Somerset Davies Mills be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Pranav Dayal.
May it please the court, I move that Pranav Dayal be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Pranav Dayal be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Lauren Elderbet.
May it please the court, I move that Lauren Elderbet be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Lauren Elderbet be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Alison Marie Henry Whisker.
May it please the court, I move that Alison Marie Henry Whisker be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Alison Marie Henry Whisker be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Ankita Samantha Joseph.
May it please the court, I move that Ankita Samantha Joseph be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Ankita Samantha Joseph be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Diana Joseph.
May it please the court, I move that Diana Joseph be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable
Let
court.
Diana Joseph be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Vivian Newen.
May it please the court, I move that Vivian Newen be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Vivian Ewan be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Rad Ghassan Farone.
May it please the court, I move that Rad Ghassan Farone be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Rad Ghassan Farone be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Victor Myung Song.
Please the court, I move that Victor Myung Song be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Victor Myung Song be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Mary Ann Tanios.
May it please the court, I move that Mary Ann Tanios be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Mary Ann Tanios be admitted as a lawyer of this court.
Bernard Lawrence Underwood.
May it please the court, I move that Bernard Lawrence Underwood be admitted as a lawyer of this honourable court.
Let Bernard Lawrence Underwood be admitted as a lawyer of this court. It will be necessary for those applicants whose admission has been moved to stand for the purpose of taking the oath or making the declaration. All applicants, please stand.
Lorraine Sayed Abu Rizk. Isabel Jane Alvarez. Fatima Bashir. Bridget Eliza Clareborough. Stephanie Stavrula Costi. Sebastian Somerset Davies Mills. Pranav Dayal. Lauren Elderbet. Alison Marie Henry Whisker. Ankita Samantha Joseph. Diana Joseph. Vivian Newen. Rad Ghassan Farone. Victor Myung Song. Mary Ann Tanios. Bernard Lawrence Underwood. Do you severally swear or declare and affirm that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skill and ability? Please say together either So help me God, or I do. Thank you. Please be seated.
Now that the formal part of the proceedings has ended, I'd like to warmly welcome you to the Supreme Court of New South Wales. Present with me on the bench today is Justice White to my right, who is a member of the Court of Appeal, and Justice Adams to my left, who is a judge of the Common Law Division. Together we constitute the court that has, in the exercise of its jurisdiction, admitted you to practice. As we gather for this celebration, I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to our elders, past, present and emerging. As we celebrate your admission to the legal profession, I recognise the role which the law has played in traditional societies of Australia's First Nations peoples, the first legal systems of our country. I acknowledge that our laws fail to recognise the cultural heritage and rights of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people for many decades, and the dispossession and disempowerment this has caused. Today, you have made a serious commitment. You have sworn an oath or made an affirmation that you will truly and honestly conduct yourselves in the practice of a lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales, and that you will faithfully serve as such in the administration of the laws and usages of this state according to the best of your knowledge, skills and ability. Today is also a day for celebration. Your admission marks the culmination of your legal studies to date, when you can look back with pride and relief on those caffeine-fuelled nights spent trying to memorise your carefully tabbed and annotated case summaries with the aid of an entire rainbow of highlighters, the many hours in lectures spent analysing carbolic smoke balls, eggshell skulls and snails in bottles, and just when you thought your student days were behind you, a few more months spent squeezing in PLT assessments. There can be no doubt that you've all worked incredibly hard to get here. For many of you, these achievements would not have been possible without the support of your family and friends, some of whom may be here with you today or watching along on the live stream. They have been through the seemingly endless years of study and have also, no doubt, been on the receiving end of your finely polished skills of argument and persuasion. Today is also a day for them to share in your success. I do hope you take the time to thank them for their support. For the court's part, we're so pleased that this year has enabled us to resume, albeit on a somewhat different basis, live ceremonies. It's very important to us, to the applicants and to their families that they have the opportunity to participate in this ceremony. Now, in participating in this ceremony today, you'll become part of a tradition which dates back to the 12th century, when it first became common for those representing others before courts to swear an oath before being allowed to practice. The first admission ceremony in this court was held almost 200 years ago in 1824. Testimony to the enduring nature of these ceremonies, young lawyers just like you were admitted even during the midst of the Spanish flu and world wars. You have made a commitment to uphold the rule of law, to administer the law competently and with honesty and integrity, as have centuries of lawyers before you. It is out of respect for this long history that we mark your admission to the legal profession with the swearing of oaths or making of affirmations, and for that matter, our somewhat strange choice of fashion. Around Christmas time a few years ago, one young member of the audience asked if we were doing Santa photos after the ceremony. I was very sorry to disappoint. Despite this time-honoured tradition, last year, the Supreme Court of New South Wales welcomed new cohorts of lawyers into the profession by a virtual ceremony for the first time. Now that we are back in person, we are pleased to be able to continue to stream this ceremony for those unable to join us. The changes we have had to make in the past year reflect the agility and dedication of the profession you are entering to deliver justice outside of bricks and mortar courtroom. Throughout history, our profession has proved itself adept at change, and never more so than now. We translated last year to a virtual system of justice at a previously unimaginable speed. Dining tables became the new bar tables, family dogs the new courtroom security, and interrupting children the new rowdy members of the public. This transformation was only possible due to the commitment of the profession to ensure the wheels of justice continue to turn. That is something for which we should all be immensely proud. Now, of course, this is not the only change that has occurred in the legal profession. For almost 100 years after the first admission ceremony was held in New South Wales, women were not allowed to be admitted into the profession. A century later, in this state today, more than half of the solicitors with a practising certificate are women, and many of the most senior positions in law are held by women, including the Chief Justice of Australia and the Chief Justices of Victoria, Queensland and the Australian Capital Territory. The profession is more diverse than ever before, and this is something we should celebrate. Of course, there is still a long way to go in improving the diversity of our profession. I am the first to admit that there are more people that look like me in senior positions in the law than look like anyone else in the community. Systemic barriers, inappropriate workplace behaviour and prejudices continue to hinder women and those from diverse cultural and socio-economic backgrounds from fully and equally participating in the legal profession. This must change. Our profession is only as strong as it is diverse. Public confidence in our legal system is founded on the profession serving the entire community, rich or poor, privileged or vulnerable. An inclusive profession also strengthens access to justice by providing culturally and gender-sensitive services. No one, irrespective of their gender, sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion, disability or socio-economic background, should be left out or left behind from pursuing a career in the law. But when we look back at how far we have come, I'm confident that these barriers can also be overcome. This is a period of great change in the legal profession. There is an increasing recognition that more must be done to ensure all lawyers have a safe workplace, free from sexual harassment, discrimination and bullying. The normalisation of working from home will make the profession more family-friendly long after the pandemic passes, and recent changes to the Legal Services Award will better protect the well-being of graduate lawyers. I believe that the pace and scale of this change is a cause for great hope. You're becoming lawyers at a time like no other. Our world is reeling from the turmoil of a pandemic, which has generated fear and uncertainty, destroyed livelihoods, and curtailed movements across suburbs, states and countries. Despite the crisis, the rule of law has not been suspended. In fact, it is more important than ever. History has taught us that human rights are at their most vulnerable in times of crisis. When significant decisions are necessarily made with great speed and without precedent, parliamentary sessions are suspended or curtailed, and unprecedented powers are given to executive governments and their agencies, the role of lawyers in upholding the rule of law is more crucial than ever. The pandemic has raised complex legal issues that strike at the heart of our democracy and civil liberties. How do we balance public health and the right of freedom to assembly? How do we ensure expanded police powers are used in such a way to protect the community rather than to persecute them? How do we enable those fleeing persecution to exercise their rights to seek asylum in the face of travel bans and border closures? As lawyers, the commitment you have made today to uphold the rule of law is critical to ensuring that emergency measures balance public health considerations and civil liberties. The balance can only be struck in an environment of contestation and scrutiny by lawyers, bringing matters before the courts. Our profession plays an essential role in ensuring that emergency measures are transparent, proportionate and applied in a non-discriminatory measure. To the extent that you have to deal with this in the case of emergency too, I can assure you, will better equip you for dealing with it in more stable times. At the same time, it is more important than ever that we connect the law with its profound human implications. The impact of the law on our lives has never been so pronounced. Lockdowns, border closures and travel bans necessarily restrict our freedom of movement and in the process of our access to and enjoyment of many other rights. As lawyers, we have a special responsibility to uphold the rule of law by ensuring that the pandemic and laws that flow from it do not undermine access to justice. As a profession, we must be vigilant in protecting the rights and dignities of those disproportionately affected by emergency measures. We must ensure that even the most vulnerable have access to quality legal representation and to the full benefit of the law. We can do this when we use our legal training to help vulnerable workers navigate their employment rights in times of illness, when we use commercial law as a tool to lighten the pressures on small businesses devastated by the restrictions, and when we help survivors of domestic violence in lockdown with abusive partners access legal services. Our commitment to access to justice requires us to be particularly astute to the injustice facing Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities. The Black Lives Matter movement has brought the racism, inequality and abuses of power that have haunted our nation for so long to the forefront of public consciousness. Last year marked 250 years since Captain Cook first landed in Australia. Despite the significant passage of time, the Black Lives Matter movement has exposed that our criminal justice system remains a potential tool of injustice for Indigenous Australia, who are one of the most incarcerated people in the world. The Black Lives Matter movement and Me Too movements present a challenge to our profession to ensure that calls for change do not pass without systemic reforms. As lawyers, we are called upon to ensure that our justice system is in fact just for all. This happens when we use our legal training to challenge narratives which sustain injustice, use our advocacy skills to defend unpopular causes or clients, whether outside or inside the courtroom, and use our legal knowledge to educate others and better inform public debate. As a member of the legal profession, you are now in a position of great privilege. You will play a trusted role in some of the most testing times in the lives of others. You will be a confidant, an advisor and an advocate to many. As lawyers, we have a responsibility to use our training and knowledge as a tool of change. The past year has shown us that there is much for us to defend and strengthen, undo and perhaps remake. As the newest members of our profession, you have an unparalleled opportunity to be part of this change for the better. Many of you would have chosen to study law because you wanted to promote human rights, to reform policy or to advocate for the most vulnerable. I urge you today to remember why you decided to study law all those years ago. Irrespective of whether you practice at the bar, in a commercial firm, a community legal centre, the government, or pursue a career outside the law altogether, I encourage you to use your legal knowledge and capacity for critical thinking for the public good. Today you have joined a profession whose support and collegiality will prove invaluable. It is easy to feel isolated, especially while some of us continue to work from home. Remember that even if you are working from home, you are not working alone. Although you might find it hard to believe, I was admitted quite a long time ago. I lost my first case, and I lost many more after that. Throughout my 35 years in practice, I could always count on the other barristers in my chambers to share my disappointment at the unfairness of the verdict, the slight tactics of opposing counsel, and most often, I regret to say, the obtuseness of the judge or judges before whom I was appearing. I must put on record that I don't include either of my fellow judges on the bench in that comment. Finally, too many lawyers still feel it is a stigma in talking about their mental health. Looking after your mental health is not something to be ashamed of. There will be times in your career when your work weighs on you to an unhealthy degree, when you feel disheartened or overwhelmed. When this happens, you should take time to, if necessary, seek professional help and turn to the enduring things in your life, like your family, partners or friends. On behalf of all the judges of the Supreme Court, I once again congratulate you on your admission and welcome you to the legal profession. The Court will now adjourn.
All stand. This honourable court is now adjourned. God save the Queen.